Hello, good evening and welcome to the business news here on News 360. My name is Alfred Akanse. Let's go on to our first story this evening. And Member of Parliament for Old Tafo, Dr. Anthony Akotose, has asked his colleagues, MPs, to be mindful in passing the Public Financial Management Bill. Now, the bill is to improve accountability, transparency and ensure economical use of government resources. He, however, cautioned MPs to take a second look at the bill.
Chairman of the Finance Committee, James Kluche Aveji, in presenting the committee's report, noted as part of the structural reforms to strengthen public finances and promote fiscal discipline, there was the need to consolidate existing laws to regulate the financial management of the public sector. He said legal framework for public financial management is currently scattered and therefore the need to integrate all. The Public Financial Management Bill 2016, which among others is to ensure fiscal discipline, accountability and transparency, is before Parliament. The Finance Committee is asking the House to adopt its report and pass the bill. But MP for Old Tafo, Dr. Anthony Akotose, cautioned the House to be careful in passing it, adding it is part of the IMF conditionalities which could come with a condition.
For the first time, there are proposed sanctions for persons who don't do the right things. The FAR was not biting enough. So there are proposed sanctions in this new bill that hopefully will keep people in check.
MP for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, stressed the need for Parliament to move away from enacting an Act of Parliament.
We should desist from attempting to use an Act of Parliament to force any constitutional provision. And Mr. Speaker, I say so referencing Article 11 of the Constitution, which provides for the hierarchy of the laws. And therefore, when you come to clauses such as 74, which arguably the chairman has agreed to delay, it would have appeared that we are attempting to use an Act of Parliament to force the provisions of the Constitution. That will be void.
The Finance Minister insisted there was no imposition.
This bill is owned by the government of Ghana. There is no imposition. It is part of laws which this House has passed, including the many tax laws and the financial laws which this House has passed.
The bill was read for the second time.
Our government says it is committed to paying the about $140 million debt owed N-gas of Nigeria and the West Africa Gas Pipeline Company. It has emerged that WAPCo has suspended gas supply to Ghana over unpaid bills by government, contributing to the worsening power situation in the country.
The Ministry of Petroleum said Ghana has paid $30 million of the reported $140 million debt owed N-gas of Nigeria and the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCo. Government has failed to meet a payment roadmap agreed among all stakeholders in October 2015. The suspension of gas supply is partly being blamed for the current erratic power supply being experienced across the country. But the Minister of Finance and Acting Power Minister, Tekpe, addressing the media after the review of the 2016 budget, said government has deployed a plan to pay the debt.
Yes, we do owe N-gas. And I think I mentioned that there are suppliers to VRA who have not been paid. We are not running away from that fact. And it's part of the second round of, we're actually paying down that loan. We have, an agreement to pay a certain amount periodically, so we are paying it down. But fellow Ghanaians, let's also avert our minds to the fact of the damage that was caused to the economy for 2.5 years when we were not getting gas.
Tekpe also justified the recent intervention by government to realign electricity tariffs following months of agitations from Ghanaians about the high tariff cost.
So the correction was made. So if there was an error, obviously ECG was collecting money from those who shouldn't be, paying at a second rate on their 50. And that's been corrected. Does it have a cost? It does have a cost. But we have automatic adjustment. We're all complaining about the high tariffs, right? Are we not going to correct it because there's a possibility of a fiscal cost? No. And there's a cost to the correction.
Some civil society organizations and energy analysts insist the recurring power crisis is largely due to financial challenges and not technical ones, but government disagrees.
Let's go on to the commodities market now and find out how the commodities have been faring. And gold is likely to retain its status as a risk hedge for a lot of investors for the remaining end of the year. And rightly so, it's been appreciating over 0.41% as is expected after 2 consecutive weeks of a downward trend of an ounce of gold on the world market. $1,320.95 is what an ounce of gold is trading on the world market, breaking that consistent flow of the reduction in that price. A ton of cocoa now being traded at $2,851 there. There's been a decline in a ton of cocoa for the past 4 days, if you've been observing. And following up to cotton, which has been experiencing some appreciation in price on the world market, $74.06 there, and a 2.45% increase. For here in this country, some cotton growers have expressed worry about the cotton industry, and they're saying that government is not paying attention to the cotton industry. You recall companies like Olam and its sister organizations, they decided to leave the cotton farming in this country because they say that they were losing interest as a result of what was happening there. Now, the cotton farmers are calling on government to get serious with that particular industry. Look at the crude oil on the world market now being traded at $44.72 is what a barrel of crude oil is trading now, so to speak, breaking that 4-week cycle of a decline there. And oil prices dipped today, but it's expected to rise over the period. But just so you know that oil prices are still up more than 60% from the 12-year lows of around $27 a barrel sometime in January. But that's it for the business news.